Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Investment Talks with Harmony. Today on the show, we'll be joining Mr. Saqib Dareshani, who is a real estate investor from Ottawa. Saqib is currently working on an AI app called Real Swipe, which basically helps investors do their napkin math for their properties. Saqib has been passionate towards technology since the beginning. He did his education in computers from Carleton University, where after that he also became a professor at Carleton and started teaching app development. Must have been a full circle moment right there. During his journey, Saqib has worked for various tech companies and startups. He had built a comfort and cushion around his life, but something happened in his career that he decided to let all of that comfort and cushion go. He decided to sell his entire stocks portfolio and go all in on real estate. In this episode, we'll dive into what triggered him to do that and learn more about his journey and experience. So, without waiting any further, let's dive right in. Hey Saqib, welcome to the episode for Investment Talks. It's so good to have you.
Thank you.
A very good morning, bright and sunny day in Ottawa.
Beautiful. Yes.
Um, yeah, how are you? How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. Loving the sunshine out. I know we had some cloudy days, but yeah, I'm digging the sunny days. We want to take full advantage as Canadians, right? So
Right,
yeah.
that's true. I'd like you to give a brief introduction of how you do, what you do, and just so that people are uh, aware of what we're going to talk about today and know you better.
Sure, sure. So basically, I'm the known as the AI guy. I'm a real estate investor, and I'm also a tech guy as well. Started doing tech in 2006. 2009, actually sold all of my stocks. I went all into real estate. I bought my first multifamily then, and yeah, and basically my journey started from there. 2010, I actually taught a course on app development at Carleton University. The funny thing is, the course is still online. Apparently, it
Really?
looks so ancient now. you know,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Things have changed a lot since then. It's crazy how like tech, how far it's gone since then. In apps, like it's a different world. Like yeah, like 2010. That's only 15 years. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's insane. We'll definitely go more into that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and then after teaching the course, apparently I was number one on Google or whatnot for the algorithm, right? And people started contacting me apparently,
Wow.
and yeah, it was hilarious. And then I did work for CRA, DND, and so on. So public and private sector organizations, and yeah, I've been involved with hundreds of apps that I've downloaded millions of times. I'm happy to say, and like I'm just humbled by how much expertise there's out there. I was happy to be part of those teams and whatnot to deliver those amazing products. So
Wow, that's amazing. So you seem to have quite an extensive background in tech already. And as you said, right, tech evolves like every year. There's a new technology, a new revolution. Like AI, you said it's been booming a lot recently, and there was nothing like it wasn't popular like 5 years ago, right? But real estate, it's been like basic. You need to know the concepts, and it's like evergreen. So there are very two different fields. I'd like to talk a bit about your transition from the development, software development, and tech side into real estate. So you said you used to teach a course at Carleton?
yeah, so it was a short course. It was a summer course because I was working at Nortel at the time, right? And
Nortel.
yeah,
Yeah.
as a new grad, right? I was working there as a software engineer, and thankfully, I was the software domain lead for the OEM, portion, the OEM layer of the LTE base stations over there, and
Right.
um, and basically I was the lead. I was also the interface between a Swedish company TLF and Nortel. So they had big delegations come in. I would be managing the interfacing for that, and checking the software, helping build out the software, coordinating other teams to develop software for the OEM layer. So really good
Right.
experience there. Um, but then I noticed, like, I was just in the cafeteria, going for my lunch and whatnot. I noticed a person double my age,
Mhm.
was doing similar thing to me, right? That I was doing, right? So I was like,
Like
should,
teaching.
yes, I was like, like, if I'm, in the, when I get older, do I really want to be in the same spot? You know,
Hmm.
you know, um,
How the vision.
yeah, exactly. So just it just like hit me. It's like, okay, like you have to do something different, because if I'm going to keep doing the same thing, I'm going to be exactly where I am, right? Because I know people who work for 10, 15 years or longer, and they're in the same spot, because it's hard. It's not like before where you could progress really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Depends organization to organization, depends on the geography, and so forth, right? And if you really want true control, you need to be your own boss, right?
Right.
um,
Right.
so that's where, like, okay, I need to start doing something different, like I need to, so basically that's where my, you could say, my entrepreneurial
Wow.
spark started to happen. I mean, it's a small thing, but it just started to happen. It's like, the seed was planted. It's like, okay, like maybe I should do something a little bit different.
And I remember we were talking once, and you mentioned that you probably studied from Carleton, and then you started teaching there. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
That would be a unique experience, right? You're a
exactly.
student, and then you're in the teaching side. So
Exactly. Yeah, I graduated again 2006, Bachelor of Computer Systems Engineering, and then, um, 4 years later, I taught this course, and I was teaching PhD students, industry experts and whatnot, and that was a really cool experience for sure. And then you know how it is, right? If you have to teach a subject, you have to get better at it yourself, right? So, like, I
right.
mean, like, really understand the subjects, right? So that if I can anticipate the questions, right, and I have the answer for those questions, right? So
I see. I
yeah,
see. So you were also like simultaneously you were also in the working for the companies, I assume, like for you said the project lead role, and then as a OEM, working in OEM, and then what happened? How did the switch happen? That why did you choose real estate? Was it like some experience, a particular experience, or did you talk to someone? What made the switch in your mind?
absolutely. So basically, when that spark happened, this was, I believe, in 2009 when it happened, right? So, um, from there, I'm like, okay, like I need to start some sort of business, so basically I'm become my own boss, right? Started looking into a lot of things, right? So I actually started day trading, right? As well,
Mhm.
so I learned a lot about day trading.
Wow.
I learned about insurance. I was briefly licensed as an investment advisor. I forgot the exact
Really?
designation there. Yeah, so I can give investments to people. So I was briefly licensed for that. Um, and so that's what prompted the course actually in 2010, because I'm like, okay, that's something I could do from the tech side, because
Mhm.
I was learning about apps at the time. And the funny thing was, at Nortel, I was known as the iPhone guy, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because I was literally the only person on campus, and it was a pretty
Right.
large campus at the time. And because I ordered off of eBay from the US, right? This iPhone, it
Mhm.
was not available in Canada for many, many years, right? So I had the original
Came
iPhone.
in 2007. Yeah, the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah. So I had the first generation or the second generation, basically, iPhone. So it was like very, very early. You know what I mean? And so people are like, oh, you're the iPhone guy. Okay, all right. You know what I mean? So that's and basically that's, again, brand new stuff. And like developing apps back then was extremely complicated. Because you had to do memory management yourself. It's like
Mm,
writing C++ code. You have to do
yeah,
manual, allocations, releases of memory and whatnot. Like
yeah,
it's a completely different way of doing things. Now we have Arc, right? So it
mm,
automatically manages the memory, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so it's very, it's very complicated. So essentially, did that course, and that's where, for real estate, I just realized that I was doing research, right? And just found that real estate has um, had a very like leverage. You have a really good leverage, right? With real
Yeah.
estate, right? You put 20% down,
Get control. Yeah.
exactly, and 5x basically. You with 20% down, you can get an asset that's 5x your original down payment, basically, right?
Hmm.
So that's huge.
Hmm.
Like, where else can you do that, right? And I've started looking into, okay, what makes a good invested property, right? So again, it was really early days. There was no Well Genius. I had no coach or whatnot. I was just researching and whatnot. I learned about cap rates. I was like, okay, like this property, this fourplex in Ottawa, it's a 10 cap, right?
Hmm.
And it's an up and coming area, right? So because again, as a business owner, investor, right? Like, I don't want to buy at top of the market. I'd rather buy a good cap rate property that's up and coming, which I know in the future will grow in value as Ottawa downtown expands, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
But it was really tough, right? They didn't have like coaching programs back then. There was nowhere to learn and teach. Like even networking wasn't like this popular. People weren't
yeah,
comfortable opening up and sharing strategies, right?
yeah.
So it must have been challenging for you to research and learn all that concepts.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. No, absolutely. So yeah, like I was just piecing things together at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
like now it's so easy. It's crazy. Like now we have all we should do nowadays is just execute because we have all the tools, we have all the knowledge,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
all about execution. That's it. You know, Whereas back then, you had to, back then, only 15 years ago, uh, you know, but yeah, like basically back then you had to find the knowledge as well. You know what I mean? And understand there was again no coaching or whatnot, and then go from there. So
Right. And you dabbled like a lot of things. Like you wore a lot of hats. You said you were also licensed for insurance. You did day trading. So you probably like made good money, like good profit. But still, you weren't satisfied that this isn't enough for the long run, right? And then eventually you realized that hey, maybe real estate is the way to preserve the capital and grow it along the way.
hundred
So.
percent, 100%. And the main thing for real estate was that it could be passive, right? And like, what I mean by passive is I don't need to be involved in the day to day, right?
Mm,
Because with the investing world, I had to reach out to my friends and family, set up meetings with them, try to get their investments on with our company, and so
right.
forth, right? So basically, yeah, I was like, nah, it's not for me. But I did learn some really, really important concepts, like for example, rule of 72, right?
Mm,
Like very, very
yeah.
important concepts, and so again, all was worth it, for the at the end of the day, getting that knowledge, to make a well-rounded individual.
Right, right. So rule of 72 for those who don't know, like it's an estimation way to how long it's going to take for an investment to double the value, correct?
Yeah, exactly, which is crazy, right? So that's why
Yeah.
then real estate just made more sense, right? Because now you're controlling an asset that's 5x, right? Your original
Mm,
amount. Now, and if real estate goes up by 3%, like you're making tens of thousands, right? Versus a couple of thousand, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it just made
Yeah.
hell of a lot of sense. And your mortgage is getting paid off by the tenants, like it's a no brainer, so.
Hmm. Yeah, you also get equity. That's very important. People are very much focused on cash flow these days. Sometimes they tend to forget about equity,
Yeah,
but that's a big factor, right? Even after you refinance and get your initial capital back, you still have equity. So that's just infinite free money for growing and working for you.
100%.
So I wonder, like, what inspired you to sell your like entire stock portfolio because that's a big move, man. Like, it takes a lot of guts, right? It's
Yeah,
you did a lot of hard work probably, and you
yeah,
made that portfolio, and
yeah.
it was a big decision. So, what inspired you to do that?
So it's pretty simple. I needed the down payment, and um, again, like, I needed something because again, as a tech guy, right, like everything's on computers, right? So I
Right.
needed something that was, again, you're diversifying your portfolio, right? You're
Mm,
right. So I'm obviously was very heavily invested in tech, right? So I'm like, okay, obviously in my degree and all the work I do is all on the computer. So I'm like, I need something that's tangible, that's recession proof, essentially,
yeah.
right? I need something that I can touch, right? And
Mm.
what I love about real estate, and this is why I went to residential real estate versus pure commercial, is every single person needs a place to live. That's the
Mm.
key point, right? For me, that's what sold me to real estate, and I thought about, like, I need something that's stable, and every single person on earth needs a place to live, right? No matter
Yeah.
what's happening, right? That's why I went into real estate. So I bought the multifamily. I bought two condos at the same, basically the same time as well. There's a bit of a delta there in terms of the timing. About around the same time, I bought two condos as well. As you know, the condo market didn't do that well as like in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't see, again, that was my learning experience, right? So I was able to get the condo for 5% down, for example. But I did sell them off eventually. But
Right.
obviously, multifamily made the fourplex, for example, made a lot more sense because, again, if one tenant leaves, you still have three other tenants that are paying your rent, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so it just made a lot more sense
So the condos you bought were in Ottawa or in Toronto?
in Ottawa.
Ottawa. Okay.
Yeah.
So just going back a bit, like how, like at a ballpark, how big was your portfolio that you sold off, like for the stocks? You
It
remember?
wasn't that much, probably like 80K.
Okay, that's still a significant amount, right? Going back like 12 to 15 years,
Right.
that's huge. And then you bought like two condos in Ottawa, and that's what started your real estate investing journey.
Yeah, the
That,
multifamily, yeah, and the two condos. That's right.
okay, and you bought a fourplex with the two condos.
That's right.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. And you still have those, or
I sold
you
off the
sold?
condos. I still have the fourplex, funnily enough. Now I'm looking to sell it now, because
All right.
basically, yeah, like it's gone through like essentially two cycles of renovations, right?
Mm,
Um, yeah, yeah,
wow.
you know what I mean? And yeah, the first time, like before, the property needed a lot of work, right? So that's obviously was a risk, from my end, right? It needed a lot of work for sure, right?
Yeah.
But did one cycle, the property value increased substantially, and then did another cycle more recently, and obviously the property value went up significantly as well. So I'm very happy about that. So
Okay. So, do you remember from how much you bought the fourplex for?
I bought it for 375, and after doing the renovations and whatnot, it basically went to like 675 approximately in value.
Okay.
And more recently, it was appraised for 1 million.
Wow. See, that's the power of real estate, right?
Yeah,
You cannot get these kind of returns in any other investment tool. It's it's very riskier for the other tools. Like it's definitely possible, but it's very much riskier. And you, as you mentioned very accurately, it's the leverage. You have the leverage in real estate. You
yeah.
can do the appreciation. You can do your hard work and bring up the value like crazy as you did. So that's very commendable, man.
Thank you
Hats
very
off to
much.
you.
I was in my early 20s, when I got everything right. So yeah, I was a cowboy, doing these things. So yeah, yeah.
Right. And you must be attached, right? That's what people tell me, that they're a bit attached to their like first couple of investments because it's more of an emotional connection too.
Yeah.
And eventually, when their time comes to sell those off, you are at a different league. You're just laugh at it and smile that hey, I did some humble beginnings and I started from there.
That's it. That's it. No, 100%. Like that will. That's why like my fourplex has like a special place in my heart. It's like, okay, there's so much history. There's so much sweat, that's gone into that building. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah. So totally agree.
That's amazing, man. And look at you now. You are again coming back to the tech world and getting into the AI app. So it's called Real Swipe. I'd like to talk a bit about it. It's getting popular day by day.
Thank you.
And what inspired you for the idea of Real Swipe? And tell us a bit about how it works.
Absolutely. So, Real Swipe is essentially Tinder for real estate. We're doing AI powered due diligence. And Tinder for real estate because we want it to be super duper simple, where you can swipe through properties, and not be overwhelmed, right? Even as investors, right? Because nowadays investors have to learn so many different platforms and whatnot. What they don't want to do is learn another platform, right? So
Mhm.
we just want to make our platform super easy to use, and the layout's more like Instagram. It's very simple to use. Um, and what
Okay.
inspired me was I just heard people. I was talking to people in Texas, right? There was a boots on ground event at Well Genius, and
Okay.
basically there were people there that had a couple of hundred doors, and they were saying that, oh, I wish I could just swipe through properties, in an easy manner,
Right.
and so I'm like, I'll build it. You know what I mean? They're like, sure, and we'll put our properties on there. So it's as simple as that. Like it was a simple thing to swiping is obviously a simple thing, right? But how you implement it, right? But then obviously the AI powered due diligence stuff was all like that was not part of the original discussion at all, obviously, right? So,
Hmm.
um, so basically that's how it really started. Like you when you build something, you have to keep your end clients in mind, right? What do the end
Mm.
clients want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So well, that's why I keep saying, like Real Swipe has been, even at the stage at Expand, right? I said that this platform is being built by us for us, right?
Mm.
Our investors are Well Genius members, and now we have some outside investors as well. And the clients are Well Genius members and outside of Well Genius too, right? So,
Right.
that's how you build the right product, right? And we have a lot of internal support, so I'm really happy about that.
So it's built for the investors, built by the investors. So that's why it holds like solid core principles,
Right?
from what I understand.
Exactly.
And when what's going on? Like when will it be available for users to check it out? And how's the development cycle going on?
Yeah, so basically, we started development on it July 1st of last year. We Before that, we just had a demo right on our phone. Right, it was literally two
Right.
screens. We were just swiping, and when you click on it, it would just go to the next screen. Essentially, something very.
Yeah, I remember you were showing it to me. It also had like a voice feature back
That's
then.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was just a mock, right? It was all mock, right? Because again, it was
Yeah.
to illustrate how it would potentially work, right? Um,
Yeah.
the voice feature we actually took out because we
Oh,
found that when people are talking conferences and whatnot, like there will be a lot of jumbled information, right? And people have to get quiet and talk, so it picked up the things properly, right? And
yeah. Right.
uh, iOS and Android natively provide voice functionality anyway. So if someone does want to talk, that's there.
Mhm.
So yeah, so the voice functionality is like in the native side of things now in the app, but like it's not a main function. Now you
Yeah.
just click, click, click. Like that's how we've made it right now. So you can literally,
Yeah.
basically we've made like pre-selected queries, right? Like, hey, these are the hottest queries that you can make. That, oh, I'm looking for multifamily, with VTB, this percent cap rate, etc. Right? So it's like a pre-selected list of property that investors would like to see, right? And you can literally click on that list and start browsing through properties, for example, right? Making it easier instead of sitting down and talking and putting the voice in and everything like that, right? So
Yeah.
again, feedback and learning, right? So we started developing in July of last year. We made
Right.
investment as well. And I'm happy to say May 17th of this year at Expand in Edmonton is when we announced the open beta, right? Before that, we were doing a closed beta, right? We did
Right.
open beta, and like this is a paid beta, right?
Hmm.
So basically, we're giving people discounts, right? So it's free for the first month, then it's $9 a month for 2 months. That's the deal. It was then $99 a month for the partner plan, right? That's our mid tier plan, essentially, right? Um,
Right.
and basically just giving people, a really in depth taste, of the direction we're going with.
Yeah, that's important.
Absolutely, because it's another validation, right? So you have investor validation, people who put in money into our company,
Mhm.
then you have another layer of validation where you get beta users, right? People who are like, yes,
Mhm.
we have 70 beta users that are investors, basically using our platform,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So obviously getting feedback from them and whatnot, and then we have 14 clients right now as well too, right? That
Yeah.
actually paid subscription, right? So
Okay.
basically these are the three layers, right? And now um, basically we're at the stage where we're making sure our clients understand the value, right? And they're
Yeah.
happy with the platform and whatnot, that we're onboarding them. We're doing things in the beginning, especially for startups, it's good to do things in a non-scalable manner, because that you're talking to people, you're getting their feedback, you're implementing their feedback, right? Then later
Yeah.
on you could do things in a scalable manner, right? When you're growing like crazy, right? Then it's just a startup, it's basically it's a good methodology for startups to follow, right? And
I
even
see.
in the future, you still want to like meet up with clients, and whatnot, because again, we're all investors, right? And
Yeah,
they're my friends and colleagues, right? So,
of course.
again, this platform is being built for people like myself. I want to use this platform, right? Because again, as harsh like yourself and everybody, we're all so busy. You have so many things going on, right?
Yeah,
To do a due diligence on a property, we got to open up multiple tabs. We got to call people. We got to check the market rents. We got to check the comps and whatnot. What if there was a platform that could do that for you, right? Help you with that process, right? Helping you
mhm,
do your homework, right? So
yeah,
that basically it's helping you do the napkin math essentially, so you can pick up the phone and or email that realtor, say, hey, this property looks interesting, I have an idea, send me the actuals, right? Or send me more
right.
information, basically, right? And you're able to
Okay.
move faster, right? So if we can, our goal is if we can save you 1 to 3 hours, even 1 to 3 hours per month, we've done our job,
Yeah,
right? Obviously we're providing way more value than that, but like
yeah,
for us, this is the base that okay, if we can save you at least 1 to 3 hours per month and helping you find that one property,
yeah.
it's a game changer, right? And I was speaking with an investor as well, right? Like even let's say within the year, you find one property, through Real Swipe, you know,
Yeah.
the platform's paid for itself many, 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 like 10 times over, easily.
10, yeah, more than 10 times, obviously, right? If
Yeah,
it's you find a gem, and it's like your life could change after that.
that's right.
So, and I'm a bit curious about the due diligence part. Like, how does it perform the due diligence? Like, is it an AI feature, or does it compare like various other from other platforms or sites? How does it do that?
Yeah, so basically, how we've built it is our AI checks on essentially different sites, right?
Yep.
We check the comps, for example. It checks the rents for the city. It checks different reputable sites essentially, and that's one of the main features that we're working on right now is providing the rationale, right? So, for example, if
Mhm.
it's a 24-unit building, right, and the realtor has not provided any information, right? Usually they just provide property tax, and um,
Yeah.
maybe like the I'd expand. I was talking about a property, right? Um, on MLS, right? It was I believe it was a 24-unit building. They only had the assumable mortgage information. They only had property tax, and that's
Yeah.
about it. So for investors like ourselves, how do you know if it's a good deal? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe price per door, right? But like everything else, like you don't know much, right? You don't have no cap rate information and whatnot.
Mhm.
So basically, what Real Swipe does is actually fills in the gaps, right? It'd be like, okay, we're assuming that these 24-unit buildings, for example, 24-unit building assumes that, okay, these are one bedrooms, for example, what the rent are for
Right.
that city, right? What the expenses could be for that property, right? Based on the size of the building and so forth, whatever information we have, right? And
Mhm.
it generates like a cap rate, and it's all pro forma, right? And we have a disclaimer in there as well, right? These are estimations, right? And we're adding a new feature in there where you can actually go in and edit that information too, right? So let's say you're like, okay, I got more information from the realtor, right? That's where the automated deal check comes in, right? So this does the automated deal check for you, right? But now you can also go and it's like, hey, you know what? I got more accurate information. Let me plug that in, right? So
Yeah.
now, so let's say, even without you entering your own information, it's already giving you a pro forma, right? Of what this property is capable of, right?
Right.
Now you're like, okay, you know what? Now, okay, the price is good. Here are the comps essentially. Here's the C meet C eligibility. Depending on what it is. And again, as you get more information, you could update, your own rationale, and you can add your own
Mhm.
information to it to make the model more accurate, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's basically how it works, right? So it gives me an idea that okay, this property, if it was rented for this much, right? If let's say all 24 units were rented, and this was, maybe we can account for vacancy, for example. That's something we can add for the GOI, the gross operating income versus the
Yeah.
operating income.
Yeah.
So we can have, for example, the vacancy, and also obviously any credit losses and so forth. So we can have that
Right.
factored in as well. Then we could then I'm like, you know what, this property looks very interesting. Now I have an idea what the rents for the city are and whatnot, what this property is capable of. Let me contact this realtor, right? So
Hmm. Okay, so it gives an initial edge, initial
napkin,
advantage.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As
And
an
that,
investor, what am I going to make from this property, right?
Right.
Obviously, you don't know what are the capital expenses and whatnot, right? Like eventually, we'll provide a way for either a realtor or someone else to be able to add those things in there, right?
Yeah.
Like again, we're trying to, based on the information we have, we're trying to come up with a model for our property, essentially.
Yeah, and I know it's like so much to do, right? In due diligence, like it's unlimited. Like some people have an extensive due diligence, some people are comfortable with taking a more risk appetite, and so it differs from person to person, and you can do so much, right? But you have to start, and then you can always develop it with feedback over time and continuously improve it, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
if someone is listening to this on YouTube or some other platform and they want to know more or check out the platform, like how can they do that?
So basically, they can go on realswipe.ai, or just
Okay.
contact me directly. We are updating the version. It should be out in approximately a week from now.
Okay.
And we have made some improvements. Like for example, you can now, without even logging in, you can start swiping through properties. Right now, you're going to see a lock icon on the properties. Right, like if you were to
Right.
go now, right,
No.
without even logging in. But if you create an account, yes, then you can go in and start swiping through properties. But we changed that because again, we want people to start, the our website is an app, right? So
Mm-hmm.
basically, and then we're releasing the apps themselves as well, right? We released the test version in January, right? But we're releasing the updated versions very soon. So we made the web an app as well, right? So then we want it to be usable for investors right away without downloading anything.
Yeah, and web is very essential, right? A lot of people prefer like bigger screens and working on the keyboard, so it's much easier, and they already have their documents and everything on the system, so it's quicker that way, like at least for me. But sounds very exciting. I would love to check it out, and I
Thank you.
time to time when I see you and I meet other partners, like I get some updates, and it's shaping up to be really nice and really something big.
Thank you.
So best of luck to that,
Thank
and
you.
congratulations on the new venture.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah. So let's continue about some of the topics, like specific topics I want to cover in our chat.
Sure.
Um, what's curious? What's your outlook on today's market conditions? Like, what's going on with Canada future? And people are saying mixed things, like move to the states or get out of Canada or move somewhere else. For yourself, like what are you seeing with these like, news going on every day and changes like tariffs and rising prices, and we have a new prime minister now, so I'm curious to know what's your strategy for the future.
So my strategy is basically diversifying, right? So I know a lot of Canadians are actually over invested in Canada, right? So
Mhm.
if you have equity, I also suggest being open to looking at opportunities outside of Canada where the returns are much much higher. So that's why in RealSwipe, we have international teams, in different countries that are driving RealSwipe forward, right?
Yeah.
So for example, Mexico, right? Basically the returns in Mexico are much higher, right? And
Mhm.
due to the tariff situation and what Trump has done with the relationship between U.S. and Canada,
Yeah.
Canadians are actually a lot of Canadians have been canceling their trips to the U.S. Right?
Yeah,
They're being
I
more
see.
wary now, right? Because the trust has been broken, right? So basically, that's why Canadians are looking outside of the U.S. right as well, right?
Mhm.
And Mexico seems to be I believe that Mexico would be a really good destination for Canadian snowbirds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Would
why
be nice to see.
we're adding Mexico properties on the platform very soon. If
Oh,
someone wants to
really?
know about investment opportunities about Mexico, I'm working with Sean and Brittany. I'd be happy to connect you. They're an amazing Canadian couple, nurses actually, and they moved to Mexico and they're making their dreams come true. And they're making basically, yeah, great investment decisions. They're building,
Yeah.
they're investing, and they're realtors, and yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, they're a very jolly couple, and I met them like we were on the cruise together. So yeah, they're very knowledgeable. They used to live in Alberta, and then they moved to Mexico, and they started their life over. which takes a lot of courage, but it's very inspiring at the same time. And yeah, they're very kind and genuine couple for sure.
100%. And that's why, in the world, like, again, the company Real Swipe, right? The word real is very important to us, right? What we're doing is building a vetted network, right, of professionals, right?
Mm,
So basically, when we refer a deal, for example, we want only to refer vetted people, right? Vetted professional. And Sean Brittany, I know, like I've basically met them several times, and whatnot, and obviously they've been vetted, and yeah, so that's why I'd be happy to, refer them basically from Real Swipe, for any Mexico-based property. They're our primary Mexico partner.
okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
So like we have already realized that you are a serial entrepreneur by now, and you have already started a lot of ventures in your career. So how do you balance like risk versus opportunity when starting a new venture, like let it be a business or even real estate? Like it's also a business in the end.
Yeah.
So how?
Yeah. So basically, it's just again, as you mentioned, right? It's risk versus reward, right? So, obviously, you want to target companies that have a high reward threshold, right? And you minimize the risk as much as you mitigate the risk as much as possible, right?
Mhm.
That's why Real Swipe makes so much sense because we know everybody needs it, right? Every real estate investor needs it. There's almost nothing out there from what I've seen. We've checked
Yeah,
dozens of you know uh, platforms and whatnot, right? And
yeah.
what we're building is something very unique, and basically that's how it is. Same as a stock, right? So basically,
Exactly.
when you're investing in a stock, you want to minimize the risk and maximize the reward, right? Based on technical
Mm.
analysis and whatnot, right? So
Yeah, and you do that by research, right? And these days AI is available at your fingertips. So why not use it for your advantage and get it to work and do the research and get a head start, right? Using the technology available.
and like the tip for the audience, like is essentially, like what I like how I look at things is it's like a Venn diagram, right? The first circle is what's your passion, right? The second circle is what you're good at, right? And the third circle is what is the market demand? Is there demand for it, right?
Mm.
The intersection of that, right? That's what you need to be focusing on as part of your venture. This is just a, like a high level thing, but I think it works really well, right? If you have that, then the venture will do very well, I believe. So
Mm. Wow, that's very insightful. Yeah. So I was gonna actually go to that.
yeah, no,
The
I
segment.
skipped a bit. Yes.
Yeah. So let's go to the myth or fact segment. It's actually one of the favorite segment
Sure,
of mine.
sure. That's
Here,
fun. Let's do it.
yeah, here I'll just give you a statement, and it doesn't have to be a belief. Like it just have to be your opinion. Like what do you
Sure,
feel? It's if it's a myth or a fact.
sure.
So so the statement is that AI with the advances in AI going on, and you already developing an app for that with the due diligence, finding deals, and probably even making offers in the future. No one knows, right? So AI is going to replace realtors in the future. What do you think?
I believe that the human, like, I'm all for AI for humanity, right? So I don't believe in replacement, right? I believe in augmentation, right?
Mhm.
Depends how people use the technology, right? So AI is a tool, right? If they use the tool in a way to replace people, they will, right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, though, like, we're human, right? The energy that we feel, and whatnot. Machines are cold, right? AI is cold, right?
Mm.
The energy that we feel from each other, when we meet in people or doing community and whatnot, like that's, in my opinion, that's irreplaceable. And it's actually become more important because now we don't, technology can get out of the way, right? Technology
Mm.
should be an enabler for the human experience, right?
Right.
So for example, for realtors, that's why realtors are really liking Real Swipe because we make realtors look like rock stars and we help investors find their amazing properties and save them time and even realtors, realtors invested into our platform as well, and they're like, we're going to save hours and hours of our time, because I can find the right properties for our investors. Like we add them to our newsletter, and boom, right? Um, so basically, for the realtors, I think realtors can focus on being human and talking to people. You know what I mean? And and going to events and so forth. And again, RealSwipe can become the tool to essentially find the right properties, right? But also, we're partnering up with many automation companies actually, where RealSwipe can essentially plug in to the overall realtor and REI business model, right? So basically,
Hmm.
if there's, for example, we partner with a company that does AI automation for real estate investors, right? Automatic
Okay.
follow-ups, building CRMs and whatnot, right? So building a REI business, it's about finding the right property, right? That's obviously the first thing, finding the right deal, and then
Yeah.
finding your partners and doing the marketing and follow-ups and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Stakeholders, right? So and this whole system there, right? So we basically, it's a two-piece system, right? So we are
Mm.
a big part of that, and we are able to plug into those AI automation systems
Okay.
essentially. So yeah, basically realtors can be more human.
I love it. Love your analogy. Like nothing can replace human touch, right? The
Yes,
the emotion factor, yeah, the AI or technology can never get it, and that's what sets us apart. But I feel it's a bit concerning for like bad realtors who are slacking on their work. Like time to take action and improve, right? Because with technology, like you can also remove some of the work, offload some work from the realtors, like you said, can help with the research, due diligence, right? So it's definitely offloading a bit of workload from the realtors, and if you're bad at your work, it's just gonna bring you to a worse situation. So I like your answer, and yeah, makes sense. I'd just like to near closing now. Before closing, I'd like to ask you about one more question.
sure.
If money and time were no object, how do you describe your ideal day from the start to finish?
Ideal this day to start to finish. I would.
Yeah, money and time is no object.
Okay, so it's a wish of mine to be building schools, for example, across Africa, right? For example,
Oh, really?
like I know Tara, she's building a school in Sierra Leone, and I know Alfonso and Tara, have started this initiative,
Yeah,
and
freedom tree.
Freedom Tree. There you go. Thank you for reminding
Yeah,
the audience as well, right? Um, yeah, they're doing
yeah,
amazing, amazing things, and I think that would be, like I could just imagine just being there and helping setting up schools, and education is so important, right? Education is so important. You know what I mean? That
yeah.
like if the world was more educated, there'd be peace. I believe there'd be more peace, right? There's always people out there, that are, but like, like I think education would make the world a far, far more better place, and
Mm,
people talking to each other and whatnot, because I don't believe in borders, and whatnot, right? This is all man-made stuff, right? If an alien
yeah,
was looking from, was looking from space, it's like, oh, okay, this
one
one
planet.
planet, you have male, female, and that's it,
Yeah,
simple as that, right? So like that's how I see things, and ultimately, a person is a bad person, a good person, that's what matters at the end of the day, right? And what impact you're
yeah,
making on the planet, right? And again, if money was no object, I want to maximize the use of that money, for the benefit, right? Like obviously I want to work on, like cool older trucks, for example, do
oh, really?
technology, like eventually, I want to learn about, for example, about quantum mechanics in a lot more detail, get a PhD,
Mm,
go into biotechnology, and so forth. That's one thing I definitely want to get into, eventually I can get a PhD. But
okay.
yeah, just being able to help the world and being able to explore the world and bring the world together.
Contribute, yeah, contribute more towards the world. And I love your answer. Like
Thank you.
I was just looking for a day, but you give me the full answer for your ideal life, right? Once
Yeah.
free from the bound of time and money, everything, right?
That's right. That's right.
And it's important to have that vision as well, because that motivates you every day to work towards it, especially when you're having a bad day or you're feeling tired. Things like this always remind you to keep pushing and keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure.
And that brings us to the end of the episode. It was so fun chatting with you, man.
Yeah, man. I
So
wish I could talk to you in the reverse. Like I could interview you. Yeah, we need to do
yeah,
that next time.
maybe why not? Maybe someday we can schedule that as well.
Sure, sure. That'd be fun.
Yeah. So before leaving, if the guest or the listener, someone wants to reach out to you, connect with you, know more about your work and journey, what's the best way to reach out to you?
I can share my email address. That'd be one thing. If you want to check out realswipe.ai, create a free account. And then basically we can reach out from that perspective as well. So
Okay, amazing. Yeah, it looks great, man. Thank you so much
thank you.
for your time
Thank you.
and for sharing the knowledge.
Okay, thanks a lot, my friend. Yeah, I'm. Yeah, I looking forward to our next discussion.